Everyone, very nice to meet you. Good morning, I'm Stefan Tompson. I'm moderating this panel, and I would like to invite our speakers one by one. Maybe we'll start with the representative from Poland, Żaneta Dela, from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Here she is, warm welcome. We only have 3 microphones and we have 5 panelists, so we're going to have to be sharing, but I'm sure we'll manage. Karel from the Czech Republic, get Dr. Māris Andžāns from Latvia, Dr. Mihai Sebe from Romania, and finally Mihály Rosonczy-Kovács from Hungary. Please have a seat. Maybe we could give everyone a round of applause before we even start. We might not get one at the end. You never know what nonsense we'll come up with. Right. Well, very nice to have all of you here. Our panel is about the opportunities and challenges for economic cooperation within the 3 Cs. Maybe a short introduction of all our panelists. We have a broad representation of the countries of the 3 Cs initiative. We have 5 out of 12, which I think is a very decent turnout. Żaneta Dela is an economic policy specialist at the Ministry of Polish Foreign Affairs. And she works at the unit of the 3 Cs Initiative and Connectivity Department of Economic Cooperation. Dr. Māris Andžāns is from the Center for Geopolitical Studies of Riga and the Riga Stradiņš University. Dr. Mihai Sebe is from the European Institute of Romania, and Mihály Rosonczy-Kovács is from the Nézőpont Institute from Hungary, and Karel is from the Institute of Politics and Society from Czechia. And We've had a series of discussions with most of the panelists here over the last few weeks about economic cooperation, and I think that's kind of what I would like to start with, is if everyone could give a brief overview from their country's perspective of what economic cooperation actually looks like within the 3 Cs initiative, and maybe if we could start from which country should we start with? Well, the one that's smiling the most. There we are. That's here's a microphone. That's probably the best way to start.
So thank you for having me here. I come from Riga, so I work for the Center of Geopolitical Studies in Riga Stradiņš University. So I represent the academic and think tank community. As for Latvia, so you know that the last summit was held in Riga. So Latvia has been quite active in supporting this particular initiative, 3 Cs initiative. As to why, there are many reasons. So number one, so basically this is a natural quest for Latvia to reconnect to the West, because Poland is, of course, the central point on how we can connect to the West, whatever that initiative is, because as you can see in the map, so there's only a tiny land bridge connecting the Baltic states and Poland, and you do not have a sea to the left and to the right, but you have Kaliningrad Oblast of Russia and Belarus. So for Latvia and Baltic states at large, this is a paramount initiative on how to get back to the West, also infrastructure-wise, because we lived some 5 decades under the Soviet rule, and all infrastructure was rebuilt and built with the vector towards Moscow. Before the Second World War, you could travel from Tallinn, Riga, or Kaunas to Europe by train. It is impossible now. In the pre-pandemic age, the normal rail connections were only to Moscow, St. Petersburg, and Minsk, because basically it's unfeasible. There are no normal rail lines to neither Tallinn, neither Vilnius, and neither to Warsaw. So, and as soon as Rail Baltica project will be completed, so the European gauge rail connection to Europe, it will have taken some 4 decades since Latvia regained independence to get reconnected by transportation infrastructure, I mean rail infrastructure to the West. So it takes quite a lot of time. So for that reason, for Latvia, this is like a natural quest to reconnect to the West. So Latvia has been quite active in this initiative. Of course, if you look at the economy of Latvia, it's rather small, around 40 billion or so euros is the GDP of Latvia, which is not much. So you would not expect that we will be large investors in the region. If you look at the external economic vectors of Latvia, so the main trade partners are Lithuania, Lithuania, Estonia, and Poland. Poland is number 4, Germany is number 3. All the other countries from the initiative they fall far behind. I think it's between 20 and 52. I think Croatia is number 52, and I think, if I'm not wrong, Czechia was 20. So we have quite active cooperation, of course, with Lithuania, Estonia, and Poland. So with other countries, not that much. When it goes to the direct investment, so investment in Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia again, but no country of the Three Seas Initiative, other countries in the top 10. So it tells you much. And vice versa. Latvian investment abroad, again, Lithuania, Estonia is big, and curiously Bulgaria. Bulgaria, I think it's number 3. And my guess it's because of the resorts and real estate in resorts. So basically, for that reason, there is not, of course, Latvian investment abroad. And how to proceed from this point, of course, Latvia has been politically active. It's going to be politically active also henceforth. It will work on the transportation and energy interconnections, but of course, there's need for external impetus, as the report already outlines, so that there is need for more investment. Of course, at the same time, we are not naive, because it's quite difficult, to drive businesses in so to say, in competitive world. So I think I will stop here for the intro. And
then in terms of economics, I mean, all the Baltic 3 have definitely been punching way above their weight. I mean, I think they've been a real guide for the rest of the region, for the rest of Central and Eastern Europe. Also in terms of packaging, in terms of marketing, you've done a really excellent job. Maybe we'll go to the other side of Europe, go to Czechia. So Mihály, if you could give us a bit of an overview of what the economic cooperation looks like from the Czech perspective, so this sort of other end of Europe.
Thank you for inviting me here. I'm glad to hear that other members are very interested in this initiative, but that's not the case of Czech Republic. It's sad, but it's true, and I must talk about that, because when you check the number of projects enlisted in official projects of Three Seas Initiative, we have only one. This huge project of canal, which has been planned from, 13th or 14th century. Yeah, and the problem of position of Czech Republic right now, and this affecting everything about Three Seas Initiative in Czech Republic, in Czech politics, is that is affected by Czech domestic politics. Yeah. The initiative is under the president office, yeah, and president, after the change of government in 2021, there was a change government from Andrej Babiš government to Fiala's government, and now the president haven't connection to the government, and their relations are not good in polite manner. I think there is very bad. They are very bad right now. So the whole initiative is now stopped until the election in January 2023. So nothing happened last year. So, and nothing will happen next 2 or 3 months.
But aside from the initiative itself, what is this? If you could just give our audience an idea just of the economic cooperation that is ongoing regardless of 3SI.
Yeah, we're looking at it like an opportunity, but the core problem is it's not an issue for Czech politics right now, because there are more problems, and the economic cooperation, we are looking for more cooperation with Germany and Austria than with other countries of Three Seas Initiative. So because nothing happened like 6 months. This topic is not present in Czech media, so the common stand is not known to common Czech citizen right now.
I see. Okay, and if we could go to, I think Europe's current enfant terrible, the Hungarians. I mean, it's a very interesting time we live in, with a massive pressure on Hungary, but Hungary obviously remains a key ally of Poland's. We have very close ties with Hungary. Hungarians are our dear friends. I mean, they have been for a millennia or so. What does it look like? What is the current economic cooperation outside of, regardless of 3SI, regardless of the big infrastructural, energetic, and digital projects? What is the current sort of trade balance, and what is Hungary's position in terms of economics and economic cooperation within a region?
Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you for Marcin for putting this whole conference together, and the colleagues of Institute Nowej Europy. I think throughout this panel we will constantly come back that in order to make the economic development more flourishing, we need to boost the infrastructural network, both in terms of connectivity, not only digitally but physically. But I would also add that the interconnectivity is important also in the minds of people living in these countries, because often the economic developments are hindered by the same fact that our businessmen, our stakeholders are simply not thinking regionally. So I think putting together such kind of conference, and also the think tank hub developed and maintained by the Institute Nowej Europy is way more than just a hub, a cloud floating over the reality, because really first the interconnectivity have to be planted in the minds and the hearts, which might seem too far-fetched from business, but that's really the zero milestone. Hungary is very enthusiastic in all Central European cooperation, and especially if you mentioned the Hungarian-Polish relations, it's not only the historical friendship, but both the Hungarian Prime Minister, Foreign Minister always underlines that the most important ally of Hungary is Poland, and the region, the Central European regional cooperation, should be organized, and the central pivotal figure is Poland, also because of its size and ambitions. If Poland is enthusiastic and thinks regionally, then it gives an opportunity to others. If Poland starts to neglect the Central European cooperation and a part of the partners, then the whole cooperation suffers in it. For Hungary, the Visegrad cooperation is the priority. So we always think in the first time in Visegrad, but we always add it that these tools should not be considered in a dichotomical or disjunct position. A strong Visegrad cooperation can help the Three Seas initiative, and vice versa. So that's why Hungary was very enthusiastic from the beginning, was one of the first to pay the contribution to the Three Seas initiative. It was Hungary who offered what we heard, that there is a lack of a center, managing center or an operational center. Hungary years ago offered that Budapest could be where the Secretariat of Three Seas Initiative could be funded. And also at the Riga summit, President Katalin Novák offered that the next summit could be held in Budapest. So as for the enthusiasm, there is no lack. As for the concrete project, I think many of us, as I told, will tell this, but most important is infrastructural interconnectivity. The Via Carpathia is a project which can, upon finishing, boost and enhance every other kind of economic investments. Hungary had fulfilled the 230 kilometers of its highway, and as we see now, energy security and diversification is the most important, or one of the most important projects, especially after the Russian aggression on Ukraine. It's more obvious than before, but luckily, no matter what the different media say, sometimes even in Poland, I'm surprised how the disinformation campaign tries to poison the Central European cooperation by creating falsified picture from Hungary, for example. But it has been years that Hungary strive for diversifying its energy supplies, and already 6 out of 7 possible interconnectors are built up with. So we have interconnectors with 6 of our 7 neighbors in Hungary, and would be happy and will be happy if we can diminish the exposure of the Hungarian energy sector to the Russian energy. A concrete project is also to connect the capitals with the high-speed trains. At the current phase, there is a project connecting 4 capitals, but in the long run, it would be beneficial to connect all 12 plus. Our partners maybe also from outside of the Three Seas initiative. So basically, we are enthusiastic. We are enthusiastic for everything that's Central Europe. But first, the infrastructural networks should be worked on, not only physically but also mentally. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mihai, maybe we could get the Romanian perspective, and yeah, then we'll finally reach the Poles. See what the Poles have to say.
Yeah, thank you very much. So basically, when we speak about the Three Seas, we only have one big picture in mind. This is interconnectivity. Basically, Three Seas is being perceived from an economic point of view as a continuation of already strong relationship with Poland, basically our strategic partner in the region. And for us, even from the beginning, Three Seas has been perceived as an opportunity to further enhance the regional cooperation. When we speak about Three Seas, we have 2 main projects that came in mind in all the media in Bucharest, Rail to Sea and Via Carpatica. And recently, in the context of the war in Ukraine, we also had interest in developing the interconnection in the gas transportation. For instance, this year in the summit of Davos, we have an agreement signed between a Romanian company and the Three Seas Investment Fund in order to develop the infrastructure for gas transportation in the region and also to bringing up hydrogen in the game. From the beginning, we've tried to make it clear that Three Seas, it's about economics, while the Bucharest 9 format, it's about security. So we don't necessarily mix the two of them. Also, Three Seas is an opportunity that needs to be a multi-stage development. First of all, many official documents, especially the fact we need to develop first of all, the bilateral interconnection with our neighbors. Then we should create these north-south and east-west corridors. And finally, we should try to provide the Three Seas a more global perspective. At the end of the day, Three Seas, if you look at the map, it's excellent opportunity to improve communication with both Central Asia and also Africa. So we need to think about Three Seas in a global context and not necessarily focus inward in our region.
How so with Africa? How do you mean?
Basically, Africa, from the point of view of energy, we need to gas connection, and also access to natural resources and trade and commerce. For Romania, the Three Seas success can only be measured if we have successfully achieved interconnection, strategic international projects. And the Three Seas is measured only by the success of the connection. If we do have succeeded in doing this, then everything is going to be fine at the end of the day. Also, Three Seas should focus and recently not necessarily on the members, but also we should have look outside the Three Seas, especially to Ukraine, to develop the interconnection, but also to the Republic of Moldova and Georgia. If we speak about Ukraine and Moldova as candidate in the EU, then the Three Seas may be the, let's say, excellent laboratory to develop and work together in a project of regional interest. And Three Seas is not necessarily related only to the countries in the region, but we should think further to our strategic partners. So when we speak about Three Seas and investments, United States come into mind, Germany, European Commission, but also United Kingdom and Japan are of interest from the point of view of bringing them in with funds and resources to develop the initiative. And finally, the Three Seas, it's only going to work if we find it and project it in the EU framework, how to better use the resources in a way similar with the Danube strategy, how to optimize the existing funds, and also in the context of the strategic partnership with the United States and transatlantic relationship. Three Seas is not isolated in itself. We are not alone in the world, but we are just an important part in the global stage, and we need to also have this upward look on the Three Seas and not only focus on the bitter details of regional cooperation. Thank you.
Might need a bit of a rebranding. There'd be a problem with adding the US and the UK. We'd have to name it 3 Seas, 2 Oceans, and a channel. I don't know how catchy that is, but yeah. Finally, well, thank you, Mihai. And finally, if we could get the Polish perspective, Żaneta, could you give us an idea of, I mean, from someone who works in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and sees the minute details of it, how is it actually going?
Hello to everyone. First, thank you for having me here, for inviting me to this panel. I believe that we'll have very interesting discussion. So, back to 2015, when Poland and Croatia have started the initiative, we knew that making our region more integrated is of the utmost importance. Right now, in the face of terrible war that is happening behind our eastern border, we see that it is even more important than ever. And we should make everything that is possible to make our region more integrated and to help Ukraine. So our Poland's biggest partner, economic partner, is Germany in terms of export and import, and Germany is also a strategic partner to the Free Seas Initiative. And Free Seas Initiative, we have 3 main priorities that haven't changed since 2015. So it is, of course, energy, transport, and digital infrastructure. Especially now that energy infrastructure is the most important to Poland. Such investments, such initiatives as the Baltic Pipe, the gas interconnectors, gas interconnector between Poland and Lithuania, between Poland and Slovakia. This is what is our main task right now. In terms of transport, of course, my predecessors have mentioned the Via Carpathia, Rail Baltica. If our region should be more integrated, should be more connected. I can remember that back in 2015 and even later, a lot of people thought that Free Seas Initiative is something against the European Union, which is not true. In fact, our voices are stronger and more audible in the EU and even outside the EU if we are together. And we have also the Free SI investment fund. Poland has invested the biggest amount, and there is a constant need to attract more investors, more private investors. We have very big support from the US, which is also very important and crucial in terms of our transatlantic cooperation. But also in terms of security, and in terms of security, our cooperation with Ukraine is also very important. Ukraine, since this year's summit in Riga, has a status of a participating partner, and maybe in the future it will become a member state of the Free Seas Initiative. We'll see. Right now, Poland supports Ukraine's European ambitions, and we do believe that one day Ukraine will become a member of the EU, and following that, the member of the Free Seas Initiative.
Thank you. Well, now that we have all the niceties out of the way, I mean, I think everyone's well aware of everyone who's had any interest in the 3 Seas Initiative understands broadly that we're trying to restore historic justice and essentially provide this north-south axis infrastructure that we're missing and no longer be a transfer zone between East and West. I think that much is understood. I think the opportunities are all very clear. I think the much more interesting part of this discussion, and hopefully we'll get to some more concrete concrete details are actually the challenges that stand in the way of making it happen. As most of us know, despite the fact of what we would like to believe, that countries can be friends with each other, foreign policy is ultimately dominated by national interests. We have 12 countries in a region that's developing very fast. We have a war on our eastern border in the context of Poland. We have Russian aggression. We've got varying economic interests, and we have many diverging interests in numerous spaces. And I think that's actually what I would like to get to in this discussion. I think it's much more important to discuss the challenges, to work through them, and to be able to actually move the initiative forward. And also, primarily, what we have, if we're looking at it from the one very pragmatic voice came from Karel here, who said, about actual the way it looked, the way it is in Czechia. I mean, as things stand right now, in the fund, as much as we like to talk about the fund, at the end of the day, there's about 1% of the money that's required for all the projects that have been listed out. So the funds aren't there to make it happen. So I think with this very unoptimistic note, I shall hand over the mic back, and let's start with perhaps the people who are famed for their pragmatic foreign policy, the Hungarians. Mihály, if you could list out some of the key challenges that you see, some of the potential clashes in policy. I mean, I think especially in the Hungarian case, with their incredibly pragmatic approach towards Russian aggression and towards what is reported in media. I mean, you were saying perhaps that this is not entirely true, but of your continuing ties with Russia regarding energy in order to secure energy for your people. And that's been a point of major tension in the region itself, which has been incredibly and overwhelmingly supportive of the Ukrainian cause, which has championed on sanctions on Russian oil and gas. And I think that would be a very interesting place to start the discussion on the actual challenges and the diverging interests in the group.
Yes, dziękuję bardzo. Jeszcze nie przywitałem tutaj kolegów z Polski. Przepraszam. Bardzo dziękuję, że mogę tutaj uczestniczyć. Back to English. Yes, very good starting point. But I would, of course, I also react to the question. But we can take this example: how Hungary, you mentioned pragmatic approach is depicted, because I think one of the biggest challenges is build the mutual trust that is so damaged throughout the last centuries. I mean, these countries, nations living in the Three Seas Initiative regions has nearly always been played out against each other by great powers, and they were just pawns on the great powers' chessboard. And also here, my brilliant colleagues mentioned that how important it is to reap the benefits of jointly, attract Chinese, American, and so on, different markets, different investors. But I think it's more important to see the opportunity within the Polish market in itself is a great market. So first, really to believe in the region, and then it might bring as a goal or as a side effect. What you asked, yes. First of all, I think it's very important to state that European Union and NATO has been very successful in being united. Hungary is not is not a fan of sanctions, but it's it's not a pragmatism. The Hungarian position is that they don't work. They bigger damage to the one is imposed on than they suffer. Maybe in a longer run they could work, but till we arrive to the longer run, thousands of Ukrainian soldiers are dying on the fronts day by day. Thousands of mothers of Ukrainians are crying for their sons, for the brothers, and instead of sanctioning an economic or an energy giant, we should rather strive for peace. That's the Hungarian position. But I think and with this, I'm turning back to what I started with, the mistrust. So this Hungarian position, which I think could be perceived as a valid position, is depicted in some media, also in Poland, as if it was not a legitimate position, as if it was, I don't know, in the interest of Russia, as if Hungary was agents of I don't know whom. No matter, the position is no different than other members, bigger members of the European Union. So this is a good example. For example, me coming to Poland and I say the word Russian aggression. Oh, really? You consider it as aggression? Because here in the Polish media, we thought that even that we are NATO members, EU members. So and I'm following for example, the Polish and Italian media. It's so obvious that this playing out these nations is still working, and this is one challenge. To build the trust towards each other. Obviously we could, but I don't want to abuse the time. We could talk about why other than the word, this pragmatic, if I put it very shortly, why this pragmatic approach to the economic relations towards the East, Russia, China emerged in Hungary, because and this is true to the whole regions. If we see that the walls are building again, as it happened in the Cold War, then this region becomes a fringe, a periphery. Whereas if there are walls torn down, then the region can reap the benefits of being in between and being a mediator of different civilizations. But as I said, please don't believe those media who have always tried to poison and dismantle this region. We are loyal members of the EU, we are enthusiastic members of the NATO. Let me just call one example for our Polish friends. In the most tense hours 2 weeks ago, it was the Hungarian government that summoned the Council of Security, and if you read the different notes, Hungary offered full support for Poland. Not only solidarity, full support. In the hours when it could not have been excluded that Poland might have been attacked. So being a NATO member is obvious, and yes, wanting to end the bloodshed as soon as possible doesn't seem to me as a far-fetched or I don't know anti-democratic approach. Dziękuję.
Thank you. As Mihály put it, to not be the periphery, this idea of the three C's, which I think is very neatly, succinctly put into this one simple sentence of not being east of west and not being west of east, but being the heart of Europe. Mihai, the Romanian perspective, what are the challenges? I mean, just having the Hungarian sit next to the Romanian, we all know about the tensions there are some tensions there, right?
The main challenge will be how to have good governance at the heart of the three C's and to have national continuity on the project. In my opinion, the idea is to build transpartinic support to the national infrastructure projects that are a part of the three C's initiative, and to have this continuity across governments and across different switching powers in the national level. Also, the main focus would be how to best use the resources that you already have and how to put together the opportunities provided by the EU. So at the end of the day, three C's is also about good governance. This is, from my point of view, the key word in three C's: good governance and continuity. This is my very local perspective on the point of view of.
Okay. Ambassador Stettler from Austria would like to have here's my mic.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to speak up for a moment, and sorry for crashing the party, but I think I should add a few words from the Austrian perspective on the three C's initiative and on the opportunities and challenges. First of all, we very much share the Czech point of view, and I think we do it together with Slovakia. The Three Seas initiative just doesn't matter. It doesn't exist even. We have to be aware of this here in Poland and in other countries that support it, because I think for the main reason, all the things the Three Seas initiatives are trying to achieve, they are actually being organized by the European Union in itself. I mean, to improve the network of transport, of energy, and also of digital infrastructure. This is, without mentioning it, the core work that the European Commission, the European Investment Bank, and all other European institutions have to do. Now, at the same time, I would like to say we look positively and with sympathy at the Three Seas initiative, and at the Riga summit. Also, the Austrian president took part, and we were actually very happy to see the Vice President of the European Commission, Dombrovskis, being present, and to see more and more European institutions interested in the simple political concept of the Three Seas initiative, because it gained huge relevance with the Ukrainian aggression, with the Russian aggression against Ukraine. Yeah? So I think the Italians is, if it didn't exist, we should invent it. Yeah? So right now, the Three Seas initiative has actually a high momentum of attention, which can be utilized. And this brings me to the next point. For, I think, Central and Southeastern European members of the Three Seas initiative, obviously Ukraine and Moldova, but also the West Balkan states are of huge importance in all these areas as we have talked about. The Adriatic Sea has, I mean, Bosnia and Herzegovina is on the Adriatic Sea, and so is Montenegro. We must not forget about that. So we need perspective for Ukraine, and we also would love to see Ukraine becoming a member of the European Union, and thereby also of the Three Seas initiative, just like Poland. But also we need to have this perspective for Moldavia and for the Western Balkans. And lastly, I think to make the Three Seas initiative a good political project in the future is that we have together to engage all European Union institutions. That's so just like the Mediterranean Cooperation is lobbying in Brussels, or the Danube Cooperation is lobbying in Brussels, or the Scandinavians are together lobbying in Brussels. All of our 12 countries, we need to lobby in Brussels to get the job done that the Three Seas initiatives wants to achieve. And then lastly, economic perspectives. I mean, the best outlook for economic perspectives on the east of the European Union is if the rule of law is applied equally, if we have open markets, if we continue to work on the single markets, and then entrepreneurs will do actually the job for us. So that's the take from Austria, and thank you very much for this invitation. I have to run away, but I wish you good luck with your seminar today.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you. Well, after that very realistic view, Māris, on to you. What are the? I mean, do you agree? Perhaps we could argue with the absent ambassador now.
Well, it's always better to argue with someone that's present. But, again, on the Latvian position, Baltic position, we're also not naive. Of course, the initiative doesn't exist far from the expert circles and Ministry of Foreign Affairs and some other ministries. But nevertheless, we are keen. Also, as you know, Estonia hosted the Three Seas Initiative Summit, and Lithuania will probably host in a few years, because next year they're hosting the NATO summit, which is quite a big event. So so the Baltic states will be in. But at the same time, of course, for the Baltics, it doesn't matter what kind of initiative it is, what the name is. For us, is the again natural quest to the west. Again, still to try to connect via Poland to the Central, Western, or Southern Europe, and also to the Nordics, because we have like two main concentric circles. So one is the Baltic states and Poland, the other is the Baltic states and the Nordic states, especially Finland and Sweden.
Sure.
As also we have quite, so to say, long history, and also presently economic cooperation is quite close between the Baltic states and also the Nordic states. And for that reason, also we have the energy interconnections, electricity, natural gas interconnections, not only with Poland but also with Sweden and also Finland. So these two main directions will remain. Coming back to the challenges. Again, when we speak about challenges and opportunities, we have to speak in a broader context. So whatever the initiative is, this is the small scale of the Baltic economies. And again, we are not naive because, businesses are there to earn money, They're out for profit, and the market is quite small. There are not many inhabitants. So in Latvia, less than 2 million, and, it would be naive to expect that, some large investment will come in, and then this is not going to happen. So for that reason, the European Union, funds of the European Union are crucial. Take again Rail Baltica or LNG, because for all the Baltic states, Rail Baltica, the rail line and the natural gas infrastructure is of paramount importance, and also in the Three Seas initiative context. And Rail Baltica, it wouldn't be possible without the EU funding, because it founds the line, sure, because I flew to Warsaw, it took 1 hour or so. If I would have opted for a car or bus, it would have taken me 11 hours or so 10 to 11 hours. Yeah. So as soon as we will have a train to Warsaw in 8 or so years, so it's still quite in the future, so it will take around 5 hours. And it will cut down the road, for example, to Tallinn and in Vilnius from 4 to 2 hours. So it's going to be quite a big improvement. So it's about the scale of economies and, of course, money. So if there is no money, of course, and then no way on how to get back the money, profits. You couldn't expect, more than you have. Another point maybe about challenges, the Baltic states are quite often called the Three Sisters, but we are also sometimes called the beloved enemies, because we're the closest in every way you could get, but when it comes to economy, we tend to compete. And one of the examples was with the regional LNG terminal. So around a decade or so back, so the Baltic states and Finland competed who would be the place for the EU co-funded LNG terminal. So there's the Baltic states and Finland. And we couldn't agree. And in the end, Lithuanians, they just did it. They built their own in Klaipėda, which is currently the only LNG terminal in the Baltic states. And also when it comes to Rail Baltica, we also tend to compete. So there are some internal clashes and crashes sometimes, which has prevented, let's say, speedier implementation of the project. But otherwise, I think, there are only opportunities. We're, politically close with the Baltic states and Poland. Poland has sent a tank company to Baltic states, to Latvia. Recently, we had the Independence Day, and also Polish tanks rolled on the streets of Riga. And they were welcome, of course, with the waving Polish flags. The Baltic states, Poland, we are more than close when it comes to the politics. Also economically, Poland is one of the biggest trade partners. I think I mentioned already number 4 this year. So there's, not much that we could do better together when it comes to politics in the European Union, save for also some issues that you have here with the justice system, with the governance, and all the rest issues. I think there are no issues, and there's only potential that I see. But when it comes to the other countries, of course, further to the south and southeast, so there the links are much thinner in many ways, economically and also politically. So there we could work more, but I think that's again the role of Poland. The role of Poland to connect the Baltic, 3 Baltic sisters, the Visegrad and other countries, because without Poland, of course, there are no prospects for this initiative.
Thank you. Before we go back to Poland, Karel, I mean, the ambassador had some very harsh truth, perhaps. What is the Czech perspective on these challenges? Does the three Cs actually not exist?
I think this is much harsher than should be. But when we are talking about possible problems of Three Seas initiative, we must say it's war. It's war on Ukraine. The position of Czech Republic is very similar to Polish government, or Czech government is very similar to Polish government, unconditionally support of Ukrainian regime against Russian aggression. Because Czech Republic have more Ukrainian refugees than others compared to their population. So for us is the exactly living problem because we are lacking of accommodation, etc., etc. But I think this similar situation is on Eastern Poland too. So, but the problem is the goal. What we should looking for, like countries in Three Seas initiative, we are looking for supporting Ukraine, but we doesn't speak about peace because I think the very dangerous idea is that Ukraine can win. We know it, and it is possible. But what cost and when? And it can be months or years, and there is other problems. Because after aggression and after war, it's not really how it happened. There will be next Iron Curtain will be built between Russia and Belarus and the states of EU on the east. So, for example, Latvia or Baltic states will be in the same situation like Austria during Cold War. Yeah, and we should discuss it in this manner because when war can stop. I don't know, in 1 year, but the relations between West and Russia will be very bad for next years and months, and we should looking for solutions for deal with it. So the idea is to strengthen the cooperation on the security and the energy area. I think this is the position of Czech government because we realize that our supplies of weapons are insufficient because we give to Ukraine everything we had in I don't know one month. Yeah. And that's all. And our stockpiles are empty right now. And we know that we should listen the Baltic states in the last 10 years. You was right, yeah. you was right about Russia, and now we Czech government and Czechs in general are looking some military cooperation, especially with Poland, because Poland right now, and this is true, is regional power. Regional power and first on the row for in helping Ukraine to win. So we are looking for military and especially energy cooperation. And this is the position of Czech Republic. And the main goal should be set in Free Seas Initiative members state, I think.
Thank you, Żaneta. These optimistic words from Karel about what Poland is. Is Poland actually a regional power? What is Poland's role in the Three Seas? What is Poland's role in making the Three Seas happen from it being from the point of being an idea or a concept and bringing it into reality?
Well, that are very nice words. So thank you. Well, what I wanted to say is that it's perfectly natural and normal that each country has their own national interests. It's nothing odd. So it actually would be pretty weird if we didn't, right? But we should keep in mind that together we can achieve much more. I mean, Poland can be perceived as a regional power. But Poland, without the Czech Republic, without Hungary, Latvia, and other participating states that participate in the Free Seas Initiative, is not that strong as we are together. Well, if it comes to main challenges, of course, the main challenge right now is the war in Ukraine. And our main goal is to become fully independent from Russian gas and oil supplies. And I'm talking not only about Poland, but about our whole region. We can see right now that Poland was right all the time, but no one wanted to listen to us, which was a huge mistake. We protested against Nord Stream 1 and 2, and you are right all the time. But we can't go back in time and change everything. So we have to do something about it right now. Now is time for some action from our side and for becoming fully independent. Well, the second challenge that I guess no one mentioned already is the climate change. The climate change is upon us. It's a very important issue for all of us. We have, of course, the EU policies, the EU goals and ambitions to become, to achieve the climate neutrality by 2050. Poland, for example, has a lot of hydrogen projects. Me, myself, I was about 2 weeks ago at a very interesting conference regarding hydrogen projects. We could listen about buses and cars on hydrogen and another very innovative solutions. So the know-how is already here. And this, the third challenge, so last but not least, is the development gap between our region and the Western Europe. All of the countries of the Free Seas Initiative were behind the Iron Curtain, all except from Austria, of course. And I guess this is...
Technically, Yugoslavia was sort of... It's not entirely Iron Curtain, but sort of the Yugoslavs are kind of slightly different situation. I guess they were under communism, but strictly speaking.
Yeah, but this is, I guess that this is the main reason why Austria has a quite different perspective from us, even though we are not so far away from each other in terms of geography, right? But in terms of history, of what we went through, it's so much different. That's why we... I guess that my colleague before mentioned that we should strive for a better communication and for mutual understanding between us. As I mentioned before, national interests are natural, but together we can achieve much more, and we should strive for better communication and cooperation all the time.
Thank you. Oh, Mihai, yeah.
Regarding the challenge, there is one challenge that wasn't mentioned yet. This is a demographical challenge for our region. I recently started working on a research project, and we realized that we have a good news, we are living longer, and the bad news, we are fewer and older at that same time. So basically, in the medium term, we'll have to deal with the demographic challenge in all the 3 seas country. Having organized back home a census of the population, we realized the fact that this demographic deficit is even higher than expected. So basically, it's okay to have a good project, to have ambition, to get funds from outside to find an interconnectivity project in the regions, but who is going to build this project at the end of the day? So this question of demographic, I believe that should be also have been in the background of any long-term planning in the region, from my point of view.
That's a very, very interesting point. And actually, just a slight point of optimism here. Lithuania, last year, for the first time in about 3 decades, has managed to have less people leave their country than returned. And I don't know if Māris, I mean, obviously you're not Lithuanian, but it's your next door neighbor, so you should know this better than I. But apparently that they finally managed to control that demographic shift, and that they had a massive brain drain issue, and they finally managed to solve it. I don't know if you've heard about this.
I think it was Estonia, but
Was it Estonia?
I think it was Estonia, but it doesn't matter. I think that much, because quite often, the three Baltic states are put in the same basket. But also one note, due to the Korea War in Ukraine, our countries have accepted quite many Ukrainian refugees, and quite often this is neglected internationally, because quite often we are rebuked over the migrant crisis that Belarus has caused. So we're criticized for pushing back migrants supposedly at the border between Belarus and Latvia and Lithuania and Poland. But what is neglected, the number and the share that we have taken in Ukrainian refugees. Take Latvia, because it was talked about the receding numbers of inhabitants. So Latvia has taken in around 2% of population of Latvia, so around 35,000 Ukrainians, and then basically, with the help of Ukrainians, at least statistically, there will be more inhabitants in all three Baltic states, and of course in Poland there are a lot of more inhabitants from Ukraine in the form of refugees. Of course, quite many of them will leave, but some will also possibly stay.
Yeah, I mean, also, I think it is important to note that bringing in Ukrainian refugees is not a long-term solution to the demographic problems, and also tragically so. I think from a perspective of actually supporting Ukraine, supporting on one hand bringing in Ukrainian refugees to in an underhanded and sly way effectively try and resolve one's own demographic issues is not particularly helpful to the Ukrainian cause, who are now facing a very serious demographic crisis. I mean, their demographic situation has been pretty poor since the fall of the Soviet Union anyway. And this accelerated brain drain actually, I think, is a real tragedy for the country. But before we go back to the demographic issue, which I think is a really important one, there's the challenge that I think is of particular importance is the energy challenge. And two things here were mentioned by Żaneta. On one hand, climate change, and what that entails is the various climate goals that we face that have been agreed upon or imposed upon, depending on one's perspective, by the European Union. And I mean, these are elements such as the EU ETS system or the merit order system. And these have consequentially massively pushed up and ramped up energy prices. Now, on the other hand, we have the energy issue, where our region, with our unfortunate and imposed and forced upon us ties with Moscow, being satellite states or being members of the Soviet Union, means that we have a number of infrastructural issues that make it very difficult for us to wean ourselves off Russia. And this has been very impressively done by Poland, it's been impressively done by the Baltic states, but not all countries in Central and Eastern Europe have managed this. I think one particular country, and I think Karel here is best really disposed to speak about this, where we have on one hand these climate goals, very, very difficult to achieve, especially for us. That means that because our transformation towards green energy is much further behind the rest of Western Europe, that means it's much more expensive for us to pursue, and it means in essence there's a massive penury upon everyday citizens. I think, Karel, maybe if you could talk about this, if we could sort of transition into the issue of energy, which I think is one of the most important challenges for our region.
I can say for Czech Republic it was huge very harsh wake-up call, the situation about Russian gas and Russian dependency on Russian gas. So in first few months it was disaster for us, because Czech Republic was dependable on Russian gas on about 90%. So prices went up, skyrocketing up, and we was looking for other opportunities. Czech government buys some shares in Netherlands for LNG terminal. So the problem right now is how to switch our energy mix for more sustainable solutions. And I can say from my experience that numbers of new installed solar panels and geothermal energy suppliers are extremely high and huge. And I think this shock can cause good result and effects for Czech Republic, because Czech Republic is one of most pollution maker in EU per head. So this is our opportunity to switch for better environmental way. But there is more issue about interconnectivity, because during last 6-7 years it wasn't reasonable to build some interconnection, especially with Poland. This Stork 2 interconnection between Czech Republic and southeastern Poland, and now the Czech and Polish side decide to build it. So war is quite horrible thing, but this is pushing us to making decisions we cannot make before. So this is it.
Thank you. And I think another very interesting voice here and perspective would be the Hungarian one, which is as you've said, as you've put it, Mihály, is very presented in a perhaps disingenuous way in other countries.
Yes, as for the green transformation, Hungary is, I think, 1% ahead of the milestone it should be at the current years. So finally, a topic where we are not attacked, because the figures are evident. So solar installation of solar panels and so on, and now even the number of the solar panels has reached a number that now Hungary has developed the infrastructure before this amount of solar panels can put back the surplus energy to the system. So now, for example, the government had to put temporarily an end on a campaign of people installing solar panels, because it was too much and the network could not handle it. So now we have to develop the network. But as for the figures, we are standing good. As for the energy diversification, as I mentioned, we built up 6 out of 7 interconnectors with our neighbors. We have, at an expert level at least, we have a very good hopes in the fields of the Black Sea left by Exxon. And I think if an energy collaboration would be set with Romania, I think that would be a great collaboration, which would also influence the other ways of collaboration. You mentioned that there is tension, historical tension between Romania and Hungary. I think that's really the Hungarian-Romania relations are the Achilles point of the Central European cooperation. If these two countries manage to think regionally and manage to collaborate together with the Poles, which are friends to both, immediately the whole core of the region would be way more efficient. So I'm a big advocate of within the Central European cooperation, the Hungarian-Romanian. Hungary also made some contracts with the Kirk LNG terminal. The capacity is not that big yet, but openly the government says that is interested in any kind of collaboration to diversify. Let us not forget that the Nabucco project was not killed because of Hungary. Hungary wanted very much years ago to diversify its energy supply. So I would use that even the word outrageous, it's not exaggeration when I talk about the disinformation campaign, that it's attacking Hungary just for political reasons. Simply, it's just not true that Hungary hasn't tried to do its best. Of course, you can do every time best, but to do very, very much for diversify its energy supplies.
Mihai, if you could expand on that and perhaps tell us about some of the energy challenges that Romania faces, if any.
Yes. So basically, Romania started from a privileged bridge in the region because we are having gas supplies. We are having, from that point of view, we are less dependent on other countries in the region from Russian exports of gas. And this provides us the opportunity to bring back in the game nuclear energy. We already had some very good contacts with the United States in creating and building in Romania the small modular nuclear reactor. In the next 5 to 7 years, we already established a location, and also recently signed an agreement for financing, US financing for the remaining nuclear reactors at in Romanian power plant at Cernavoda, the Turian 4. So basically, this crisis brought back the nuclear and the public agenda in a favorable way from our point of view, and also provided a stimulus for developing solar-produced electricity. Just like in Hungary, you have a boom this year of households installing their own solar panels to produce electricity, and the networks is being overwhelmed by the number of people wanting to join in from that point of view. Also, we try to develop the interconnection with Greece through Bulgaria to bring LNG from the Adriatics, and from that point of view, the perspectives are optimistic. So, creating the infrastructure with Bulgaria to connect with Greece would help a lot also the other countries in the region. And as regards the bilateral relationship with Hungary, I can say it's getting better and better. For instance, for those who don't know, in the current Romanian government, we have also the Party of Hungarian Democrats, who are having a high-level position in the Romanian government. So from the point of view, even despite some temporary setbacks or criticism, the relationship is going stronger, and we had a lot of high-level expert visits, and in the end of the day, it is in our own interest to have good relationship, especially in regards energy and so on, because Hungary, it's our gate to the other 3 CIS countries from that point of view, for both Romania and Bulgaria. So a lot of our interconnection have to go through Hungary. From that point of view, a good relationship is key, not only for our countries, but also for the region as a whole. So in the end of the day, we are quite optimistic. Welcome. With how things are going to develop in the energy if we get to this winter, and I think we are going to get rather well from this complicated winter. At the end of the day, the good thing will be that our region will finally secure the energy independence and that we so much wanted, but we're unable to achieve it in the last years.
Thank you. I mean, Māris, you've already briefly talked about the energy sector. So I think moving on to the political realm, one of the common accusations is that the 3 Cs initiative is ultimately a revival of the dreams of Marshal Piłsudski, of bringing intermarium into place, and of essentially having this sort of Polish-dominated region according to the dreams of an old Polish leader, often or sometimes described wrongfully, perhaps as even as a fascist, as an authoritarian. And I also think hear what Ambassador Settler had to say from Austria, which is very interesting, bouncing back from that on one perspective we have this accusation, on the other we have the accusation that, well, we have the European Union, what's the point? All the stuff you're doing at the end of the day is all falls under what the European Union wants to do. I mean, from the infrastructure to the energy all the way through to the digital. So what would be your response to this from a political perspective? Is the 3 Cs initiative is there any truth to the accusations, and is there any point to it, given that the European Union provides all of that anyway?
I think there are many cooperation formats in Europe. You know, here, Visegrad, the Baltic states, in Nordics, and in the West Europe and Southern Europe. So there's nothing bad that we have this initiative on connecting 3 Cs. So, and I think it's definitely not perceived so. As I mentioned, the Baltic states, we are natural partners. Also, Poland is a natural partner of ours, and whatever is the title or the vector as far as it defends the European and transatlantic values and also other vectors, it's more than welcome, and there's nothing bad in that. Of course, at the same time, there is more affinity, so we have slightly better understanding again because of the historical reasons, because we lived in the Soviet Union for 5 decades or so, and most of the countries, say for one, also lived behind the Iron Curtain, so it's quite normal. I would say that we have some shared understanding, and that there are also gaps. Let's be honest, there are gaps, and as I mentioned already in transportation, energy. So the Baltic states, we became independent in 1991. We became members of NATO and the European Union in 2004. But infrastructure-wise, we were still part of the Soviet Union. Let's be frank, and it will have taken 3 to 4 decades to reconnect back to the West and South. I mean, to the Europe. And in that sense, there is nothing bad as far as it's on the good terms with the EU's projects.
And will it? I mean, can it go? I mean, this is really the question. I think the question that, or the thesis that Ambassador Settler brought to the table is a really important one. That there is a lot of attention. There's a lot of media attention. This is a moment where it's starting to take consciousness. It's definitely, the project's is become relevant to the expert class, to some elements of the political class, and now carrying it forward. Will this momentum keep it going or not? And I think that's the next question I would like to ask is how can we, in terms of actual sort of next steps, what could be done if each and everyone could give a perspective from their own countries of what they would like to see their country do. Perhaps I'll phrase the question differently. If you had the leadership of your country, what would be the next steps you would take in this particular field? Maybe that's a bolder way of asking the question. Māris, let's start with you. You're smiling. You're amused by the question, so I'll let you have it first.
All right, why not? So of course, Latvia will still be active in the initiative, but it will depend. The fortune or misfortune of the initiative will depend not on Latvia, of course. It's a collective matter, and it depend on the willingness of most of the countries to be involved, and especially of Poland. So if I were, to rule, so I would, of course, instigate and lobby Poland to be as active as possible, because without Poland, it's the main point, the main hub on how to connect the northern part, the Baltic Sea with the rest of the countries, the Black Sea and the Adriatic Sea. So without Poland, it is impossible. So the Baltic states will definitely work on this vector, but not because of the initiative as such, but because, again, of the natural alignment with the needs, again, to reconnect to the West and the European Union at large. So this is how it will proceed.
Żaneta, the Polish perspective. If you were to lead Poland right now, what would you do to promote the Three Seas Initiative? What would be the next steps concretely?
The next steps concretely. Poland.
Where do we get the money? That's it. Where do we get the money?
Where do we get the money? The answer is pretty simple. Private investments and more strategic partners to the initiative. We have already the US, Germany. We have Ukraine as a participating partner, but there is no secret that we need much more money in the Free SI investment funds to get anything done. And the second point I would like to talk about is maybe changing the formula itself a little bit, maybe institutionalization of the Free SI, creating a secretary, creating a better platform that would be on in the time when there are no Free SI summits, because sometimes it's I guess that we can all agree on the fact that the Free SI works perfectly during the summits. But there is a lot of time in between. So we should maybe create some platform that contains all of, I don't know, events, conferences, share our ideas in this time in between. And strengthen our cooperation not only at the level of head of countries. I mean, it's great for the initiative when our presidents meet and talk, but such events like, for instance, this conference are also very important. We should give more voice to people who works like me at MFAs.
We'll make sure to invite you to more conferences to get your voice out, Żaneta. Don't worry.
To national experts. Well, this is the most important, I guess, for not only for Poland but for all of us.
Karel, how do we, if you were
as Prime Minister of Czech Republic? Yeah.
Correct.
It's very interesting idea.
See, it's not. Yeah. It's actually not such an easy question, right?
It's not.
I mean, people usually say, "Oh, if I got power, I know exactly what I do." Actually, most people have no idea.
I clearly see 3 steps which should be done. First of all domestic steps. First of all, I changed the model of governing of this project from president office to government, because this is causing the many problems, especially in Czech domestic policy. Second, I will send the money to the fund, because Czech Republic didn't send any penny to this day. And third, I think, and the position is very similar to my colleague, there is lacking some good story about Free Seas opportunity, because Free Seas initiative, because when I'm talking about it with ordinary Czechs, they doesn't know about it, nothing, and they cannot see the right goal. Yeah, interconnectivity, and this thing. Via Carpathia is too far. The Latvian railways, yeah, it's interesting, but nothing for me, because there is lacking good story, and story is made by institutions and by people. So I think we should create more like-ish European Union within the European Union. Yeah, we can choose flag. I don't know, some people who can represent that project, not only like heads of some state, but a concrete person who is Mr. or Mrs.
Free Seas influencers
and stuff like that, because ordinary people doesn't know what can be done and what is the opportunity here. Yeah, that's all.
Żaneta, you seem to have an advice.
I wanted to add one very important point to the discussion. Creating a position of government plenipotentiary for the Free Seas initiative in every participating country. We have a government plenipotentiary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Minister Paweł Jabłoński. And I believe that every participating country should have one at the MFA. Because right now, we can see that there are no government plenipotentiaries at all in most of the countries. And the units that take care of the Free SI, they are in different ministries. In Poland, it is MFA. In some other country, it is Ministry of Transport. And it is much more complicated to communicate with each other when we have representatives on different levels. So we should change that.
Thank you. That's another one. Well, on to the I'm really looking forward to hearing what the Hungarians have to say. Mihály, how would you do this?
Yes, also in the Hungarian MFA there is Sir called Balázs Jávori, who enjoyed very much the fellowship program. Yes, the money, I think everyone asks for the money, but as far as I remember, there was there is a promise from America to put $1 billion.
$1 billion, correct.
Are those and maybe a regional money coming from private regional investors would be more flourishing. But coming to communication, I always return to this point. So to build really the interconnectivity in the minds and in the hearts, because it's finally emotions that, as Karel said, that people just not thinking it. And this, for this, I would really try to put even more focus on how to counterbalance this. I already mentioned this disinformation, poisoning initiatives of the great powers and the media, because it's so really tiring to read about Poland from Hungary through the views of the New York Times or through the views of the Financial Times, and it's so apparent that this just really makes the communication and the thinking together more difficult if we use this Western or Eastern or any other kinds of bypasses about getting information from the partners within the 3 Cs initiatives. So I think media initiatives would be very, very much very important to precede and to build the grounds of the future more concrete collaborations.
Yeah, I mean, there are there are at least 2 initiatives, Polish and media initiatives that I know of. There's Trimarium from Grzegorz Górny, who I know has a number of journalists from across the region, and there's the 3 Cs Europe portal, which is funded by BGK and which is run by the State-owned Foundation. And I believe they also use journalists from across the region. So I know there's some attempts at doing that.
We'd need portals, Mr. Górny, wielkie brawa dla pana Górnego, stąd tutaj też, but we need dozens, hundreds, blogs about cats. What are the cat breeds in Croatia that could be interesting for Latvia? Everything. So really, and not bypassing from Berlin, New York, Moscow, Istanbul, directly, to communicate directly. I don't know, even journal, magazine, weekly magazine, sport journal, really to connect the hearts.
Mihai, if you were leadership position in Romania, where do we go next? What happens?
So basically, I will try to focus more on the sideline events of the forum. The accent is put in the media on the political side, which is going well, but the business forum, the civil society forum, the other formats of regional cooperation should be also be enforced. And I agree with my co-panelists about the importance of getting the hearts and minds of citizens, because we really need to we speak about money. Okay, it's okay to have money from other side, but we also should better use the resources, national resources, and put them together. And from the point of view, if we connect our entrepreneurs, our business persons, our academic, then we can go further in this endeavor. Because at the end of the day, there is also, in my opinion, the perception, the fact that we know more about what's happening outside the region than what's happening in our region. We know what's happening in Paris, in London, but we don't know what's happening in Budapest or in Zagreb or Warsaw for that point of view. So development, these side events, this forum, economic forum, business person, academia, is and should be of utmost importance on the point of view. And also we should bring in the potential new partners. I agree with what the Ambassador was said before about the Western Balkans, and I think that should be also important part in the 3 Cs initiative, because they're also candidate countries. So bring also Greece, for instance. From that point of view, the fact that Western Balkans and Greece are not necessarily actively involved in this is of rather sad from that point of view. The fact that we're planning to provide even more activities to Ukraine and Republic of Moldova and maybe Georgia is of good interest, but having the Western Balkans, Greece, and maybe Turkey at the end of the day, or at least inviting them or taking them part in some common activities, might serve us well at the end of the day.
Thank you. We have just a few minutes left, which I'd like to. There is a little exercise. There's something. I think there's some very interesting ideas have come up. There is. I think you're probably all familiar with the idea of an elevator pitch deck. Do you know what a sort of a man who has a startup, he's in an elevator, he's got 30 seconds to pitch an idea. Communications and communicating the 3 Cs is something that has been sort of recurringly come across from all of you. A little exercise, I'd like each and every one of you to pitch the 3 Cs in essentially 30 seconds. I don't know whether it's easiest to be the first to go or the last, but who'd like to go first? No, Karel, definitely not. Okay. Żaneta, let's go. As the Poland was one of the founders of the 3 Cs, so let's hear it from the Poles. What is the 3 Cs in 30 seconds? Or in 2 sentences, or in 15 seconds. It doesn't have to be 30.
3 Cs initiative is the initiative that aims at bringing together the countries between the 3 Seas, Adriatic, Baltic and Black Sea. And we should keep in mind that our connectivity and infrastructure in terms of digitization, transport, energy is of the utmost importance in the current situation. And the 3SI is also not only a political or some economic concept. It is an idea. It is a challenge. It is a dream that we all want to make true. And it is something that brings us together, and together we can create a better future for all of us.
Māris, let's see if we can fine tune this pitch. Eventually, we'll have something very good.
Oh, it's difficult to go after Żaneta. I think is perfect pitch, and what could be added is that this is also American-supported initiative in Europe, which is also important. And also, we spoke in the previous part of the discussion on what could be done. And then, I mean, also the United States, I think we should lobby even more, for a stronger presence of the Americans here in the region. I mean, this is quite important. It's not only about the 1 billion, but we know well that the American LNG industry is quite interested to be well involved on good terms with the European natural gas market. So in that sense, I think that this should be supported, and also that the American role should be underlined here.
Mihai?
Pitching in 30 seconds, land of opportunities, land of rising opportunities of the 3 Cs, and a place where you can enter the future now. Why do I say that? Because having so much things to be done in the infrastructure and interconnectivity means that we can overstep the intermediary steps from Western Europe and could build directly the infrastructure of the future. So 3 Cs, land of opportunities, the polite East, and entrepreneurial East of Europe, where things can be done better and much faster from that point of view.
And still cheaper, apparently. But Mihály, let's hear it.
Maybe I will repeat myself a little bit. So 3 Cs initiative is really the historical opportunity for these countries and for these nations to work together on their future in mutual trust. We've seen the bitter results of when these countries have always been played out against each other by great powers. Together, this region, the Central European region, of which the 3 Cs initiative could and should be a leading and an important project, could become, if not a great power, but a major power on a global and on a European scale. And this would also enhance the competitiveness of the whole of the European Union.
Karel, you go last. I mean, it's easiest. You've got all the ideas to steal and plagiarize now.
I'll be quick because I think it's about funding. We are looking for what can be done, and after fall of communism, we was looking to West, and this is first step to be to done things in our way. Can be different way, can be much different way than in the West, but this is opportunity to be us together, stronger, richer, and maybe better.
Thank you. I mean, my pitch would be the 3 Cs initiative is the greatest geopolitical project of our time, a land of opportunity where you can invest your money and get great returns. At the end of the day, remember, we have to, it's not just about what's in it for us. I mean, we have to convince the narrative that we have to sell, I believe, at the end of the day, is to bring that FDI in, because we don't have the money right now to bring those infrastructure projects about. We have just a few minutes left, so I'd like to do a little circuit of the room. Does anyone have any questions for our panelists? Someone must have a question.
Maybe, if I may,
yeah, of course.
One more thing to our discussion. What I wanted to say is that FreeSI is not only about enhancing our cooperation, it's actually about getting to know each other. I mean, look at our education systems. We know more about British, German, or France history, culture than we know about each other. Me myself, I don't know any artists from the region. I mean, okay, maybe I could name some, but well, it is not enough. So I think that we should start in the very beginning in our schools to teach more about our region, and well, this is something that we should remember about.
Yeah, I actually really deeply agree with that. Thanks for bringing that up. Does someone have a question? Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. My name is David Bednarczyk. I'm from Warsaw School of Economics. My question is whether we can actually micromanage all of these small parts, like, let's say, education and so on. Like, do we have the people to actually do it? And the question is, can governments directly try to create, let's say, methods of increasing cooperation, and whether it wouldn't be more effective to increase, let's say, personal relationships on the level of universities, where, let's say, the interests of future New York Times columnists and so on are created, yes? If somebody is writes articles for any sort of monthly or any publication, they write about what they know about, what they have about countries that they have personal relationships with, and most of these are created when people are young adults. And therefore, I believe that on some level, the best way to increase cooperation in the long term would be to create intellectual stimuli and, let's say, connections on university levels. Because since the Middle Ages, the university is the main hub that creates the future of every country in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone of our panelists have anything to say to that? Mihály, yeah, go for it.
I only can express my full agreement. I mean, really, because to create impressions and emotions, links and friendships, maybe even first kisses in the region, or well, basically, no, times have changed, but important kisses that would for surely enhance the interconnectivity. So really, to focus on the younger generations and the intellectuals is an important task. Also, the 3Cs can use the already existing experiences, and recently I have learned from more and more people that, yes, I chose Poland or I chose Romania to go to Erasmus, because why go to Frankfurt, why go to Paris? Maybe that could be given a stimulus, the gentleman told.
Māris, do you have, yeah?
Yeah, a brief reflection. Maybe I will differentiate myself a bit from my fellow speakers, because I would not advocate, to say, artificial regionalization, because I can agree, of course, that also when we are in Riga, we often speak that we know things much better in DC or in Berlin or Paris than what's happening in Vilnius or Tallinn. Sure. So it's the issue even in Baltic states that we sincerely do not know, how the processes unfold next door. So I think it's a long shot, far too long, to imagine that there would be like, more, deeper societal bonds in this region. So I would not advocate, so to say, artificial regionalization, because I mentioned that the Three Seas Initiative is one of several formats where we see our place. So we have the Baltic states, we have the Nordic Baltic, and we have the Baltic and Polish links, and then I think it's that's it. And of course, it's good if something like that could be achieved. But otherwise, I think that we also have to be open-minded and not to neglect other regions. In our case, Nordic countries are of paramount importance, but also Germany and others. So I would also not advocate like drawing lines by creating something new.
Yeah, no, I understand. I take the argument. I personally don't entirely agree with you. I think there are definitely some common. I mean, I understand the artificial element of what you're talking about, of sort of enforcing and imposing it. But I think if people willingly want to discover the region better, then that's a wonderful thing. And I do think there are some genuine historical ties that really do make us closer to each other than they do, for example, necessarily with France, which is much further away. Or yeah. Does anyone else have any questions, any remarks, any comments?
Thank you very much, Stefan. My name is Maciej Kubicki, and I'm dealing at the presidential administration with the Three Seas initiative. We are, let's say, the political compass here in Poland, whereas the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they are kind of working on the more practical side of it, dealing with projects. I don't have any questions. Actually, I would like to thank you, because I always find it very, very interesting, like from the perspective of somebody who deals on a practical level with the views and contributions from let's say more academic point of view. So thank you very much. It was extremely interesting. If you allow me, I won't have any question, but I just one or two comments. It's a pity that the Austrian ambassador left, because I found his let's say statement on the non-existence of the Three Seas initiative a kind of provocative. I understand it was supposed to, let's say, invoke or spur some intellectual discussion. If it is so that from Austrian perspective it does not exist, the question is why do they belong to the club? Okay, they can leave it anytime. This is one thing. Second thing, regarding I mean, Austria is one of the least enthusiastic states belonging to the Three Seas initiative. The other two is Czechia and Slovakia, and it's a huge pity because these countries are in the very heart of the region. So from this perspective, they are extremely important to say reaching the goals of the region. I hope it will change. Luckily, there are countries that are extremely enthusiastic, like Poland, like Latvia, all the Baltic states, Romania also. 2 days ago, or it was like before the weekend, I had an opportunity to talk to Romanian fellow diplomats regarding the let's say aims for running the 3SI in the next year, and I must say that for sure the Western Balkans will be there, Moldova will be there, and Georgia will be there. So these countries will be under heavy discussion. We'll try to find some form of collaboration for those countries. So. Again, thank you very much for all these very valuable inputs. Thank you.
Yeah, does anyone have an ad vocem or anything else to say? Oh, Mihály, thank you.
Just very shortly to react to my colleague. I think it's not a sin to artificially regionalize, because we see that there are many projects that do that. For example, the Erasmus program, which is a brilliant thing, also artificially regionalizes or Europeanizes, and it works tremendously well. those things where there is no organic seed won't work anyway. You may put the fortunes, but there are some moments when the artificially put sources can really enhance real organic needs that are regional. If I may give an example, I'm a member of the board of the Václav Felczak Foundation, which fosters Hungarian-Polish friendship, and I came up with the initiative to create Hungarian-Polish CDs and concerts, from classical to the modern music and pop music. And I was afraid at the beginning, okay, we are using this grant for the first time. Let's don't use that we will finance 4 CDs, maximum 4, because who knows, maybe we'll just have 1 applicant and then we'll be happy that we issued. 61 applications came because there were so many ready or half-ready musical projects in the pockets of Hungarian and Polish musicians. So it was clearly there. You just had to give a little bit of seemingly artificial impetus.
Thank you. I think this is we will manage to finish this panel in a timely manner, which is an impressive feat. We started on time, ended on time. Thank you so much to everyone here. Mihály Rosonczy-Kovács from Hungary, Dr. Mihai Sebe from Romania, Dr. Māris Andžāns from Latvia, Żaneta Dela from Poland, and Karel from Czechia, Stefan Tompson. I'm very glad to have been able to moderate this panel. I think everyone was fairly enthusiastic, which is very nice and enjoyable. And yeah, I mean, I'm ashamed that there weren't more questions from the audience, but oh well. Thank you very much. I think a round of applause for our panelists.